Gareth A. Davis, this is not your usual background. In fact, I don't even know if you have a usual background anymore. You look like you're on your travels again. Where are you?
Well, listen, if I can have a moving background every week and it's sunnier than the 7 degrees here in Zagreb, Croatia, then I'll move. I mean, it's the same weather as you. I'm in Zagreb, Croatia, and I'm here making a small couple of day documentary about Marco Martiniak. The Emperor he's called, marvelous Marco Martiniak. I think very close to being pound for pound number one in that new sport I'm now involved in. That we're all trying to have a little peer at through the curtains, bare knuckle boxing. He's a multi-weight world champion in BKB. Incredible character. They kind of opened their doors here, he and his wife Carla, to her beauty salon, to his gym, and this is the land of Mirko Krokop. And the Croatians punch above their weight in sport, don't they? And this is a guy that is doing exactly that, and he's headlining in the Indigo at O2 next Saturday night. So yeah, really, really nice to be here, and fascinating to meet this guy. Go to prison with him yesterday, where he was in prison. You know what it's like being on the road with these things, Addy. You can't say no to them because it's
No.
fascinating as part of our lives to be the person narrating the story. They're the man in the arena or the woman in the arena, but we get to narrate part of their story and bring it out of them. It's absolutely fascinating. How about you?
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I can't wait to watch it. I'm in my usual den in London. It's been an interesting week. Obviously, we were both in Liverpool together for Nick Ball's homecoming fight, or homecoming of sort, because he has fought at that M&S Bank Arena a few times. But this was his fourth defense of that WBA featherweight world title. And look, myself and you both said last week on the pod, this isn't going to be easy. This is going to be a tricky fight. It's going to be a difficult fight just because Brandon Figueroa comes from boxing stock. He's the more experienced of the two. He's fought at the high level for longer, although Nick Ball's done a lot in the last 2 to 3 years. And in the end, it proved it wasn't easy. Before the stoppage, it's always interesting because everyone goes and checks what everyone's got on the scorecards, who they've got. Before the stoppage, where were you in that fight?
I had it was a very close fight, as you say, and I think I picked Figueroa to win
Mm,
on a controversial, very close points decision. And as you said, we both agreed, we concurred together last week on this show that this could be his toughest test since Ray Ford, with no question at all. And that Ray Ford performance was brilliant and propelled him onwards when we believed he should have been a two belt holding champion at the time, anyway, of the world.
yeah.
I had him a point ahead going into that last round. So needing to win that last round to secure victory would have been, I think, 115, 113, 7 rounds to five. But also, if Figueroa had won it, I wouldn't have argued with the draw because it was a seesawing contest that
Mm.
went back and forth. But when I studied the scorecards, and I've got them here, um, two of the judges had it 106, 103 going into that last round for Brandon Figueroa. That was Marcus McDonald and Glenn Feldman, who I spoke to both on the night, but not about that result. And the third judge, Jean Robert Lang, had it 107, 102 to Nick Ball. And people were querying that afterwards and saying, why, how can a judge have scored that when they had the other score? It was that kind of fight. I remember
Yeah.
scratching my head for at least 4 or 5 rounds, Addy, of the 11 before the two knockdowns in the 12th round. How did you have it going into the last?
I I think I had Brandon Figueroa up one
Hmm.
going into that last, but I say that not doing like a scorecard after every round, but in my head thinking, okay, Figueroa might have won that. Nick Ball came on strong. Did he win that? I found it quite difficult to score as well, just because I'm not used to seeing Nick Ball pushed back like that, but he did have those little bursts that he has, those little 4 or 5 punch combinations. And I thought, okay, a couple of those scored. But I loved what Figueroa was doing, always pushing Nick Ball back, always going to the body. We had CompuBox numbers in front of us, and the stats always showed that Figueroa was outlanding him to the body so much. So he was draining Nick, wasn't he? Like Nick's legs he's not the fastest of feet, but he can get in and out. And he started to slow down quite a lot in those latter rounds. And then, I mean, that hook up top where it looked like it was going to the body and he disguised it and it went up top was just brutal. And I was just trying to scratch my head. It's very rare that you see Nick hurt. I mean, he has trouble sometimes, but not hurt like that. And I think that's the first time he has been hurt, or at least first time that I've seen him knocked down. So it was hard to watch because you're not used to it. And it kind of takes the air out of the room, if you like, doesn't it? I mean, the noise in that arena, especially because of Andrew Kane, a couple of fights before, was still booming and loud, and then it just kind of went silent straight away. So it was a shame for Nick Ball, but that's what happens when the best fight the best. Someone's gonna lose. Not everyone can, stay unbeaten. Brandon Figueroa's lost, so Nick should take inspiration from that you can, lose and regain a belt or come again and get another belt.
But the bottom line is he needed a knockout. If he was going to win it himself, he was going to have it. A 10-7 round would have even just closed it up a little bit, but it still would have been Figueroa's round, or it might have been a majority draw at that point. But he literally needed a stoppage. He wasn't going to win it if he got to the end of that round and won it 10-9. He was going to lose the fight, which is...
Is that refreshing, Gareth?
It is refreshing. Yeah, refreshing. I'd say that we weren't going to get a home fighter decision in the Republic of Liverpool, isn't it? It's the boxing Republic of Liverpool, isn't it? I stopped for a coffee on the way home. We saw each other before we went to bed in the Pullman and just spoke for 5 minutes. And I left the hotel about 5:30 in the morning to drive home to get around any traffic. And I stopped at the petrol station just around the corner to get a coffee, and about 6 people, all Liverpudlian lads, wanted selfies. 5:30 in the morning, and they hadn't even been to the event. It is a boxing mad city. So that what you talked about there, and this is why Figueroa has been so effective in being, and I've called him 3-weight. I had it stuck in my head all weekend. 3-time world champion he is now. When someone is a volume puncher of that effectiveness, averaging about 1,000 punches a fight over 12 rounds, it wins them something. It catches the judge's eye. Yeah. He is an effective fighter. He's an extraordinary young man, Brendan Lee Figueroa. He's an extraordinarily handsome, he's got an extraordinary body to squeeze that into super bantam as he has, 5'9" of him. And because when I interviewed him afterwards, you interviewed him as well, he's not a featherweight to look at, is he? Doesn't feel like you're next to a featherweight. So I think Nick went to the well, the exhausted 12th round where he'd given everything. He won the battle of the jab at times. That screw uppercut he got through effectively so many times, but we never saw Figueroa hurt. We didn't see Nick really hurt till that point either, but he emptied the cash register. And it may be a turning point in his career. Listen, we all love Nick Ball. He doesn't sing from the rooftops. He's incredibly modest. Paul Stevenson, his coach, is the same thing. The Red Triangle Gym in Albion Street, or Albion Road in Everton, is an amazing place. So many champions. The great old boy Curran that started the gym, it's 100 years old. They deserve their flowers in that place. As you say, Andrew Kane earlier, 6th round win, ninth round win after being down himself twice in the 8th to body shots. Did you interview him, by the way?
No.
I interviewed him. Get this. I said, what were you going through when your body was hurting? He said, all I could think about was the Italian and the Turkish I'd eaten earlier in the day. And I was thinking, what the hell was I doing eating those meals? And I could just feel that food in my body thinking, I ain't doing that again. And look what he did in the next round. Came out and blasted his opponent out of there for a 9th round stoppage. And as you say, it lit the atmosphere in the one to last fight, for Jack Turner to come in and do his magic against a guy who looked 3 weight divisions lighter than him, to be honest. And the brutal superfly that he is, and it was all set for Nick, and it was a brilliant fight. And I spoke to Manny Robles afterwards while you were interviewing Brandon Figueroa. Robles I've known for years and years and years. Obviously, he's the guy that masterminded Andy Ruiz over Anthony Joshua in 2019. And Robles knew that if they kept the volume up through the fight, they thought they'd win on points anyway.
All right. You mentioned in that piece there that you spoke to Brandon Figueroa in the immediate aftermath of the fight. This is what Brandon Figueroa had to say to Gareth A. Davies.
Did you feel going into that last round then you didn't necessarily need to win, even though Manny Robles told me they wanted you to finish strong?
Yeah, you know, I felt like I was in control, dominating. I was pretty relaxed, calm, cool, collected. But he said, go out there and give him more, kid. And I said, all right, I'm going to give him my all. And I caught him with that short left hook, and I hurt him.
Where do these incredible punch kind of volumes come from? Were you punching your way out of the cot as a child or something?
Yeah, you know, me and my brother, older brother Omar Figueroa Jr., we've always had a great engine. We work really hard, and I feel like that's where it comes, you know, working hard in the gym, mountain runs. My coach Manny prepared me to the best. We were throwing over 1,000 punches, sparring 12, 14 rounds even in the gym against tough opponents. Big shout out to Andrew Sosa and Veneno, my sparring partners, and I was literally throwing over 1,000 punches.
We were talking about Nick Ball winning tonight and chasing a fight with Noye Nui. Are you after that fight as well?
Of course, you know, the best of the best. I want the best of the best. Carrington, all the world champions at 26, let's get it, baby.
You broke some hearts tonight, heartbreaker. Congratulations on a great performance.
So thank you so much. Big shout out to the Liverpool fans. Nothing but respect to you guys. Nick Ball, once again, tough, great champion. And I just came out here and showed you guys what I'm about, and hopefully you guys fell in love with my fighting style.
Thank you, brother.
He speaks well. I interviewed him, you interviewed him. I thought he spoke well. I thought he was very respectful of Nick Ball, very respectful of the Liverpool crowd. And obviously there was a bit of a skirmish afterwards. That's just a case of he's just won a world title away from home, his biggest win ever. It's revitalized his career. Obviously they're going to celebrate. As soon as that team realized Nick Ball was on oxygen, they stopped. And everyone kind of handshaked after and apologized. Obviously Andrew Kane snuck in a little leg kick, which wasn't needed, which lit the fire. He's obviously Nick Ball's teammate. He was upset they were celebrating. He needs to calm down. But I thought Figueroa handled everything so well, because I've seen people celebrate away wins and they go a bit potty. I thought he was very calm, very respectful. Again, a great-looking kid. I don't know how he squeezes down into featherweight. I have no idea how he got to super bantamweight. But he's opened up the door for now for big fights. I mean, there is Shushu Carrington. He mentioned Noye Inoue. He wants the big ones now. He's been around a long time. He's only 29, but it feels like I've watched him for years. So he wants the big fights, and he'll get a big fight now because he's got a belt.
Yeah, and Manny Robles also said to me, where I was heading, but I'd lost my train of thought, apologies, that they might give Nick a rematch, by the way, because it was such a good fight that they might give him a rematch. I didn't go there with Brandon because I'd already gone there with Manny. And, you know, as he said, it was such an exciting fight. He said we apologised afterwards because I spoke to Manny about the skirmish, or the skirmishes, in the ring, because there were too many people in that ring as well. There must have been 25 people in that ring at the end. Nick was just recovering. He arguably, even though the referee wanted to give him another opportunity to keep going, the first knockdown was catastrophic. He was caught midair as they both exchanged, and his chin and head was torqued across his neck, and he was almost out when he hit the ground, wasn't he? And it almost woke him up, him falling down. So there was an over celebration. I don't know the name of the cornerman, a big, tall, gangly guy. You know, he looked like, he was so excited. He was a big figure in the ring, and he went right over to the other side of the ring and explained that he was going over to celebrate with his wife, who was sitting on the other side. But it was overboard. The scenes weren't great. Manny apologised for that. But I like a rematch if that's possible. But I do like the Noye Nui fight. And Noye Nui will look at Figueroa. Turki Al-Sheikh will look at Figueroa. And they'll go, yeah, that's a good opponent. Stylistically, he's very good because he's open to be caught. Because Nick showed in this fight you can catch him as well. Nick was winning the jab at times, Ade. He was winning the battle of the jab.
Yeah. You mentioned Turki there. Turki did tweet, didn't he? In the immediate aftermath of the fight, saying that he wants Figueroa for the September 12th card, headlined obviously by Canelo Alvarez. They're doing a Mexico versus the world card, and he wants Figueroa obviously to represent Mexico. So if you're Figueroa, again, this is it now, isn't it? This is the time to cash in to make that money. Obviously, you're going to get paid well on these Riyadh season cards. As for Nick Ball, it was the fourth defense. Obviously, look, pound for pound, number one over in these shores. What next for him? He's been busy, hasn't he? He's given us fights, it feels like every 4 or 5 months. Is it just a case of maybe you pause for a little while. You take a not long time off. We don't want to see that, but you take an extended time off, and then you come back again with the same trainer, same weight. What do you do?
Yeah, he won't move trainers. Famous last words.
They shouldn't.
I don't think he will. He's been with Stevenson for so long now. I doubt whether he would move. Yeah, like you say, you hit the nail on the head. Needs a little rest, regroup, grieve a little bit for the loss, because it's the first of his career. It won't be a great feeling. There'll be questions in his own mind about whether he has, like I said, maybe emptied the cash register, but he certainly did on the night.
Yeah.
Went deep into the well and got caught through exhaustion because of the amount of effort he'd had to make. Listen, he's given us some very brilliant nights, and he's a very popular fighter. Yes, he'll just have to rebuild. I think El Capitan Canelo in that event you mentioned, Capitan Canelo contra el Mundo, against the world, is a sign that, as I said on our broadcast on talkSPORT on Saturday night, Ade, and I've got to make this point this week, Turki Al-Sheikh has now got the black pieces on the chessboard and the white pieces. He hasn't got all of the pieces, he hasn't got all 32 pieces, but he's got most of the white pieces and maybe all the black pieces on the board. And the Canelo, it will be the sayonara for Canelo, I think, or the goodbye. It'll be adios for Canelo at this event. I think it will be a swan song. Doesn't look like it'll be Terence Crawford. It looks like Christian Billy, doesn't it? At super middleweight. But I really feel the cogs of the big influence are really turning the screw on boxing right now. I'm just seeing it in all areas. Salah owning 60% of Zuffa boxing, and Turkey having a stake in DAZN, the Ring magazine influence fights. You're going to the one with Barrios and Garcia in Las Vegas next week, aren't you?
Yep.
I'm going to be stuck at the O2 Arena in London. Finally, you're going to be in the sun and I'm going to be in the cold. About time. But look at the influence now. Look at the influence everywhere, all across the battlefields. I think it's a very, very, very fascinating war game right now.
Yeah, it's a war game where he holds every single position of power. And good luck to everyone else. Before we wrap this Liverpool card very quickly, we've mentioned him a couple of times. Andrew Kane and that win over Alejandro Gonzalez, where he's down in the 8th. It's done. He's down to body shots, which are the toughest to recover from. He goes down twice. He goes back to the corner. You're thinking Paul Stevenson's going to have to say something special. And it's almost as though Andrew Kane revitalizes himself and then comes out swinging. And one thing he does have, I mean, of he's got 13, 14 wins. I think he's got 12 knockouts. This guy can crack. So he's always going to be dangerous. And that was an incredible comeback. And that lit the arena up, didn't it? It was an incredible performance. And now he's in line for a world title crack against Inoue's younger brother.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be down on them after such an amazing turnaround. I'd like to say snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Although he says it was more than anything, it was the pain of the Turkish and the Indian that he'd eaten earlier in the day. I wanted to go more into the menu. I did manage to get a bit of that interview on talkSPORT at the time because I thought it was so fascinating. I wanted to know exactly at what time he'd had the Turkish and at what time, so not the Indian, the Italian, what time he'd had an Italian meal and what time he'd had a Turkish meal. Because
how did they get that wrong, by the way?
Well,
how they got that wrong?
He had pasta for breakfast, and the night before had a Turkish because he probably had a hard weight cut. Again, he's a pocket battleship, isn't he? He's bantam, isn't he? I think
he is bantam. Yeah, used to be super bantam, now squeezed down to bantam.
And he's built. He's almost like a slightly smaller version of Nick Ball, isn't he? That kind of muscle shark, So he's obviously starved himself to make the weight. Maybe had an Italian in the evening and thought, I'm going to have a Turkish now and reward myself. And that hasn't gone away out of his system. And I'd love to know the timings of those meals. I remember Joe Calzaghe telling me one time that he literally used to put Mars bars, eggs, bacon and eggs, a kebab, everything into like a blender. He said he'd empty a fridge after trying to make 12 stone. You know how big Joe is? And you're trying to make 12 stone at the moment, and it worries me for you because you're a natural 13 and a half stoner when you're not doing, you're 85 kilos. You're not a small guy, but you're trying to make, what if it's 75 kilos at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
when you stop that, where will you go? Will you end up 2 Mars bars, a marathon, a lobster salad? I mean, will you acquiesce to the taste buds that are going on in your body?
Probably. Like these fighters, I guess you just want to cram as much down you as possible. But hopefully he learns from it, doesn't make the same mistake, and gets that world title shot. Do you think he's ready for that?
I just think he's got to take his opportunities. We didn't know how good Nick Ball was going to be till he got to world level. Let's be honest about this. And he beat Ray Vargas. It was scored a draw. It was one of the most outrageous judging decisions I think I've ever seen. Because didn't he have Ray down 3 times in the first 6 rounds? From memory, something like that. And then how they score it a draw is just beyond me. Beyond me. And again, that was against a 5'10" featherweight, wasn't it, in Ray Vargas? One of the tallest featherweights in history. Listen, it's a great opportunity for them if they can get a fight on the Riyadh card. Look what Nick did. Did he fight 3 times in Riyadh? Yeah, he did. Vargas, Ford, and Goodman. Sam Goodman was in Vegas as well. Was in Riyadh as well. So look what he got out of it. He won't have been kind of starved of money in those contests. So I just say good luck to them. And also, Ade, it would be remiss of us in this section, I don't know if you were about to go there, not to mention this kid Jack Turner at super flyweight, because he's not the greatest stylist, but my word, he carries power in those big legs of his, like Nazim Ahmed once did, but at super flyweight.
Yeah, I don't know how he is a super fly. I look at him and I'm like, how? He's not short. As you say, he's got really big legs, big frame, and he obviously must boil himself down to really get into that division. I mean, you look down at his record on BoxRec, and he's actually fought at lightweight before. He's fought 135 pounds. So it's almost like he's been trying to find this perfect weight class. And for some reason, he's decided that super fly is where he's going to best do his work. And I was saying this to the boys on stage, Barry, Darren, and Carl Frampton, that he's got more power than I think I've ever seen a super fly have. He really can crack with both hands. So he's going to be very dangerous to... Look, he might get outboxed. I think that's almost a given. But he's got a chance against any of them because he can crack. And that power seems to last throughout the round. So you're right to mention him. Obviously, look, co-main event or chief support. So it was a good slot for him as well. Everyone would have been watching him. But he was... his opponent was so overmatched. I mean, they were almost...
3 weight divisions. He looked like a...
He looks like a minimum weight. Like, yes.
You know?
He looks so small, but and then he even decided to stop, didn't he?
13 knockouts and 14 wins. If he can keep making that noise, he's coming out of himself. I don't know if you interviewed him afterwards, but he's starting to talk more now. El Terrier. For again, big Liverpool following for him. Like you say, he's got that size about him. Imagine him in. We'd never expect him to beat Bam Rodriguez, or maybe even do that well against Bam Rodriguez. But if he keeps knocking people out, and he just goes up a division or 2, he could get some big fights. And he's a lovely kid.
He can, especially in that Liverpool area where they are trying to find, especially now Nick Ball probably have a bit of a reset. They're going to try and find a guy that can fill that arena. Who knows? It could be Mr. Jack Turner. All right, let's talk Deontay Wilder's interview. We've had a few discussions about this, Gareth, haven't we, off air? How we thought it was, how we thought it went. Did Simon Jordan do a good enough job of steering the conversation in the right way? Derek Chisora goading on Deontay Wilder. I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was at times painful to watch for Wilder, someone that I consider a friend now. I'm just seeing him sort of, if you like, lose his rag, but maybe for the right reasons, but also maybe for the wrong reasons. But it was an interesting sort of 30 minutes or so. What was your take on the outburst from Deontay Wilder?
Well, it didn't surprise me at all. And I mean, I know I don't want to be recidivist about this because, I've been there with him and I've had him 6 inches away from my face. telling me to go and tell Tyson Fury right now that don't come to my country and get people to feel sorry for you because you've been on a drugs and drink binge for 2 years out of the sport and recovery, because a black man would not be treated that way in America. And he has these feelings about race, and he feels... I've been to Alabama. I've been down there 3 times to see Deontay in Alabama. And these are complex things to discuss. It's a very grey area to discuss on our show because we're not about race on our show. And he brought up race, but Deontay has some very strong feelings about how the African American is treated in America and how he feels as an African American. And he's very strong in it, and he's very powerful on it at times. I've done actual Telegraph pieces about his feelings about race in America. In this instance, I thought it was unnecessary that he turned it to race with Simon. I think Simon Jordan was perfectly within his rights to ask about Tyson Fury. I thought he was a little overzealous by saying, no, you are going to talk about it, because it's very difficult to do that with fighters. Especially...
That's what lit it for me.
Yeah.
You're right to point that out, Gareth. That's what got Wilder up on his seat, thinking, who are you and how dare you tell me I'm going to talk about a subject when I don't want to talk about it?
Because when he was having a go at me in Los Angeles, and he literally took his glasses off and he went like this right at me, yeah? The video's out there. I was working with Dave Alorca for William Hill at the time. Dave, much as Spencer did in the studio with Simon, sat back and just said, you do whatever you got to do here, Deontay. I'm going to wind my neck and sit back and not get in the way of a stray punch. Dave Alorca nicely got his camera out while Deontay was having a go at me, and instead of calming Deontay, I put the camera right in there and filmed it. So thanks, Dave. I always you're never my lifesaver. But as Deontay was coming in, I had a moment where I was thinking, am I meant to take... Because he took his shades off, yeah? And I was thinking, am I meant to take mine off here as well and go eyeball to eyeball with him? But I thought, no, I won't. Because I didn't know how angry he was boiling inside. And I had been down with him in Alabama the week before, on my own, in the gym with him, on my own, and a camera guy, just doing a shoot. But I thought, no, I'm not going to push him here, because there are moments with fighters, especially in a fight week, where you know that we are not the subject of their ire. They are totally focused on that person. And what it did was, because Tyson Fury is the fuel in him, the fire in him to keep going, because he's got his issues, we can go over them in a minute, with Tyson Fury, that is the trigger that gets him going. That's the trigger he needs to fight Derek Chisora. It was brilliant TV. It was very compelling. Simon Jordan was being Simon Jordan. But I found myself, unlike everyone else, thinking Deontay's deluded or lost it. That's Deontay. That is Deontay for me.
Yeah, that's the bronze bomber, 100%. That what we saw, that little moment there is the bronze bomber. And there's a part of me that is happy to know the fire still burns, because I've always felt like it's kind of been extinguished over the years. And I was like, okay, no, it's not extinguished. It just needs the right prodding to bring it out. Let's talk about Tyson Fury and this relationship with Deontay Wilder that spans, 6 or 7 years. He continually says that Fury is a cheat, continually says that Fury lies. And their last fight was 2021, I think October 2021. I think he mentioned that he's got evidence that Fury cheated. When's this all going to come to light then? I think this is the thing that annoys people about Deontay a little bit when he accuses Fury of certain things. It's like, okay, when are you going to shed the light on these accusations? Because a bit like Simon was saying, and look, Simon and Tyson Fury don't have a relationship at all, but Simon defended Fury in a sense of like, okay, show us. Like, you can't keep saying these things without telling us or showing us. Is it the glove thing? Is it the spiking of the water? Do you believe that he had performance-enhancing drugs? Like, what is it that you're referring to? Because it does seem to go all over the place a bit, Wilder, with this Fury thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm fascinated to see this documentary when it comes out. And it's...
Yeah, who is making this? Like, is this a real thing?
But what it is, it's his trumpet call. It's his bugle call to himself. Listen, he has been beaten soundly by. Let's not forget this. Let's go over this. He's been beaten in really poor fashion. I think Fury beat him all 3 times anyway. It was December 2018, that first fight. So this is a 7.5 year issue now he's got with Tyson Fury. I remember Tyson Fury really winding him up in that first battle, the Battle of Los Angeles, really winding him up. Fury was back. He'd lost 10 stone. He was the defensive genius under Ben Davison at the time. Deontay knocked him down and hurt him twice, but he got up. He's unhappy with the long count. Jack Reese maybe did count long that night. I had Fury winning that on points, not a draw. As much as many American journalists ringside had it for Deontay. But it made for a great trilogy. Fury beat him up in the second fight. Deontay's got issues that the gloves were too floppy. I believe that's why he sacked Jay Diaz from his third fight, because the gloves weren't checked properly. They did look floppy in videos, but They did. Every glove in Vegas, and that was in Vegas then, not Los Angeles, are checked by the commission. If they're making a documentary, they'll go over that. He has issues, I think, with Tyson Fury and the boar meat and the 2 years he was away. I think he's trying to bring up so he's just bringing up all the sediment from the bottom of the muddy pond to make his case, to make his mental strength and his mind right, to be able to know that he wasn't beaten by a better boxer. He was beaten by forces that were against him, that he will get redemption now against Derek Chisora. That's how he was talking last week. Everything happens for a reason. He's been through difficulties away from boxing in his personal life with Tally Swift, who I got to know as well. I mean, I don't know if I call Deontay a friend. Yeah, I would call him a friend. If he had a problem, I would speak to him anytime. But we act like friends with each other. I certainly have a very close personal relationship. I hug it out when I see him. He's a wonderful human being. When we were in Dubai in December at the IBA conference, I had him up on stage, and he, Rampage Jackson, Shannon Briggs and Derek Chisora were the absolute stars of the show for everyone in the media. They're such big personalities, such big characters. Deontay's like a rock star for me. And I think he's appreciated in the UK. I don't like people saying there's something wrong with his mind. I don't think there is. I think, he embraces the screw looseness of himself, frankly.
Yeah, he is who he is. There's almost this, you've got to behave a certain way. No, Wilder behaves the way Wilder wants to behave. It doesn't mean that he's got a screw loose. If you say something that
people are saying
irks him.
People are saying.
Yeah, no, you're right. People are saying 100%. And I've seen the narrative being spun that, he's a bit crazy. I'm like, he's not a bit crazy. I almost feel like these are people that have not covered him for as long as you have.
Exactly.
So you've seen this character before. Yeah. So people feel like, well, who's this guy that's screaming and shouting in Simon Jordan's face? Well, that's a guy that screamed and shouted in Gareth's face, done it in Radio Raheem's face. He's done it to everyone.
Yeah.
So it's not new. People are just very surprised.
And he said things like, I want to put someone in a body bag in my career. Just come out with these outrageous comments. But when you sit down and ask him to qualify that, what he says, how he explains that is, I am legally allowed to kill someone in a ring. And that's the bronze bomber mentality when I go into a fight. And let's not forget, he is statistically the greatest knockout artist in the history of the heavyweight division. Statistically. So
his thing is kill or be killed. And that's just the narrative that he's spun on that fight very quickly, because we've not really spoke about Wilder Chisora or Chisora Wilder. I think it's billed as Wilder Chisora in America and Chisora Wilder in the UK is what I found out, which is quite strange. 50th fight for both, which is incredible. I think they need to be applauded to get to that number. We don't see a lot of fighters get to that number anymore. Just to kind of equate that to like Alexander Usyk, for example. I think he's had like 24 fights. I know an extensive amateur career, but that's how many fights Chisora and Wilder both had. Chisora now the favorite. Almost 2 fighters that are deteriorated, but maybe Chisora has deteriorated less over the last few years as opposed to Wilder, or do you see it as a 50-50 shootout?
Just very quickly on what you mentioned there about the historicity of the two men and their 50th, making the half century, both of them. Let's not forget, Deontay got into boxing as he always wanted to be a pro sportsman. He's gangling 6 foot. He's a giant human being as well. He's a big man, even though he only weighs 16 and a half stone. He got into boxing because he had a daughter with spina bifida. He got in because he wanted to do something to go straight to the top, and he went to the Olympics very quickly and got a bronze medal with very little.
I think he was the only one to medal for that US team.
He was the only one that year, and you know, when I first met him, when he came and he beat who did he beat? Was it in Liverpool when he fought
Audley Harrison?
Audley Harrison, years and years ago. I did the interview with him then about the spina bifida daughter, and I've never forgotten that about him. There's this honor and humility and beauty and empathy and love in him, which was going on in that interview with Simon before it kicked off. By the way, he was explaining about his daughter and spina bifida. So he's an iconic figure from this era. Derek's an iconic figure for altogether different reasons. They're both as lovable. I don't want either of them. I almost want them to knock each other out at the same time. That double moment where they knock each other out and they're just both back, and it's the end for both of them almost. You know, Derek for me is the marginal favourite. If the Wilder that turned up against Zhile Zhang and Joseph Parker, who can't pull the trigger anymore, is against Chisora, but if Deontay detonates in the first 2 or 3 rounds and he gets those big punches away, Derek could be knocked out as well. But I think Derek's been very smart, passing the tissues in the studio, pretending he's Deontay's friend and buying him fish and chips. Yes, they are old warriors who respect each other, but Derek's playing a very sneaky cat game in this one.
Yeah, very smart is Derek Chisora. Before we wrap this heavyweight section, there has been big noise, and it almost feels like a big move now for Wardley to take on Daniel Dubois. It felt like we was going to see Daniel Dubois versus Zhile Zhang. There was obviously a lot of talk about Wardley versus Derek Chisora, maybe even sneaking in and getting an Alexander Usyk fight. It does look like we're going to get a head-on collision course between, you could say, the number 1 and number 2 in this country. And I think that's a fair statement to make, number 1 and number 2, in any order. This is the big fight. This is the big stadium fight. And it's weird because we're now seeing stadium fights without AJ and without Tyson Fury. The sport does move on. And I think this would be a really, really good showdown if this was to happen next.
Yeah, it's a big payday for both of them as well. It's a fight I really like. It's an extremely exciting fight. You can pick either man in this fight. And, you know, the winner stands in an extraordinary place because it will make a lot of noise if it does happen. It could be at Portman Road. You could take it to Tottenham Hotspur. You could, we need to have it before the World Cup starts in June, July. So if they do it in May, it's a really good time to do it outdoors. I haven't really gone through I see Dubois the favourite early, but if the longer the fight goes, the more I see Fabio winning it, which makes sense, doesn't it? But it's a brilliant fight between the 2 young heavyweight stars, barring Moses Itauma. And does Itauma fight the winner? Maybe,
Maybe. I mean, if it's Dubois, more likely. Obviously, there is this connection with Fabio being in the same gym and same trainer, blah blah blah. But you can understand how that's difficult to make. If it's Dubois, then there are no hurdles. But if Dubois were to win, I mean, the CV on this man is insane. Like who he's fought at such a young age. I mean, I think people forget Dubois is still young because he's been around for quite a long time. On our TV screens, you forget he's actually still quite young himself. So look, it'd be an incredible first defense, a tough first defense for Fabio Wardley. But I think you made the point right at the start. Big payday for both. It'd be Fabio's biggest payday. And I don't know about Dubois. He would have had a couple of good paydays against AJ and maybe Usyk second time round. But certainly Fabio's highest ever payday. So let's hope we get some news on it very soon. Go on.
We need to talk about something else in the white elephant in the room in the heavyweight division as well. We know Tyson Fury's back. We've mentioned Moses Itauma. Tyson Fury has got a bit of a banana skin if his legs have gone. It's great to see him happy and out there. Anthony Joshua, it's great to see him getting back into the rhythm and out with Khabib Nurmagomedov in Dubai. Alexander Usyk holding up the heavyweight division a little bit at the moment. rebranding, new promotional company. That talks to the global picture again to me, that he's rebranding his promotional outfit. That talks to me in my head. I'm looking at what I see and not what they're telling me, is that that's going to be a deal with Turki Al Sheikh. Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, we know, are going to have deals with Turki Al Sheikh. We know that heading towards Netflix. I think Alexander Usyk is heading towards Netflix as well. I just want him to have a fight soon, and I think if he's going to have it in America, Eddie, you may not agree with me on this. Richard Torres is in the top 10 of the Ring magazine rankings. Have a fight with an American in America, in my view. Don't do a what Andy Ruiz. Fight someone like Richard Torres. Give an American a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to see an upcoming young heavyweight who has a bit more gusto than Andy Ruiz, who has been flat for the last 4 or 5 years. On this Turkey deal, potentially, there was a lot of talk about AJ versus the kickboxer Rico Verhaven. Again, Turkey tweeted the other day that it would like Usyk to fight Rico now.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he goes down that route. I wouldn't be shocked if he replaces AJ and fights Rico. That wouldn't shock me.
Well, to bring it back to Marco Martiniak and Zagreb, Marco yesterday, I've just put out an Instagram reel. He wants to fight Usyk when Usyk comes to bare knuckle eventually. That's the fight he wants, because they've got similar styles, orthodox and southpaw. I do want to see Usyk signed in a fight soon, because I think if we've got that, we've got every key locked. Every lock unlocked in the division then for the year. And all heading into.
But I'm with you. I think he's holding up the division. I mean, I've got so much respect for Alexander Usyk as a human being. I mean, what his country's been through, he's almost been the face of sort of the how dignified Ukraine have been over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he's the heavyweight world champion. And apart from 2024 when he fought Tyson Fury twice, he does only give us one fight a year, and I just don't think that's enough. I want to see him active. There are some contenders out there. I want to see Cabial have a crack. There are. If there was no one, I'd understand, but there are people. So let's see what he does. But hopefully, there's an announcement soon, or belts need to be vacated and people need to be given their shots.
That was my final point. He doesn't need a belt anymore. Mayweather got to the point where he didn't need a belt anymore. We're getting to the point, and there was a row between your colleague Chris Mannix and Mauricio Suleiman yesterday, and Chris was kind of lighting a fire under Mauricio to say, "What are you on about? Sanctioning fees of 130 grand?" And Mauricio was trying to say it's not about the money. It could be £1, $1, 130,000. And Chris said, "No, it is about the money. What are you doing for that money? What are you actually doing?" Because that we are going through tectonic plate shift where people are beginning to question the validity of the belts and whether there is a necessity for them. For me, Shaka didn't pay his sanctioning fees when he beat Tio last week, so he was stripped of the WBC title, wasn't he?
Yep.
Alexander Usyk doesn't need the belts anymore. We all know who he is, and that's it.
Yeah, we know who the number one is. Yeah. You're right. A belt won't tell us anything we don't know about Alexander Usyk. They help fighters that are coming through who we don't know, so it almost puts paints a picture as to who they are. When they're a name, the belt means very, honestly, very, very little.
And are we headed towards a two-tier system in boxing? That's the picture I see developing. Are we heading towards a two-tier system?
I think we're heading towards a war in boxing. I think it's Zuffa who we're going to talk about. There's always war, you're right. But I think this is the big one. The sanctioning bodies and Zuffa and the rest. All right, this weekend, the third Zuffa card in 3 weeks. Like, it's just boom, boom, boom. They're coming with these events very quickly. This one, probably the two most known fighters on a Zuffa card so far, I think it's fair to say, it's the heavyweight boys, Efe Jagba and Charles Martin. So it's the first heavyweight fight on a Zuffa promotion. I don't mind this fight. I'm not too mad at it. I think Efe has probably got a bit too much left for Charles Martin, who actually is a better fighter than he was when he was a world champion. But still, I think Efe Jagba's proven, especially in that fight against Martin Bakoli, that there is something there with Efe Jagba. So I expect him to get this job done. But it's a good heavyweight fight for a Zuffa card, I think.
Yeah, I don't really almost no comment. I don't know what to say, but they're launching soft and they'll go bigger. The bigger things for me coming up now, Ade, are that we're getting movement with Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, who aren't even world champions at 154, and that Xander Zayas, who's a champion at 154, ended up walking out in the Super Bowl as a Puerto Rican. I was so pleased for him because I've known the kid since he was very young. And I'm really pleased with him. He's a beautiful human being, raised by his mother, and there he was with the rock star pop star. Is he a pop star?
What, Bad Bunny?
Is he a pop star? We would call him a pop star.
I just think he's a superstar.
A superstar.
Yeah, I think he's that now. Yeah, he's beyond any type of music genre.
But just the whole tilt of everything, involving Jake Paul and his criticism of Puerto Rican artists at the Super Bowl, and should it have been in Spanish? And he lives in Puerto Rico, and Jake Paul's maybe coming back against Tommy Fury now, and I hate to say it, I'm more interested in all of that. You know?
Wait. So you just went from Virgil Ortiz to Boots to I don't know where we are now. You went to where?
Zayas
what
is
one?
holding two of those belts, isn't he?
Okay, yes.
Which is odd because I think Boots and Virgil are arguably the best two boxers in that division with no titles, and we've got Xander Zayas with two and Josh Kelly with one, and from Xander Zayas, it was so big at the weekend to see him at the Super Bowl. And then my stream of consciousness went to Jake Paul and the comments about Puerto Rico, and I'm hearing Jake Paul wants to fight Tommy Fury again. So
I okay on that. Virgil Ortiz versus Boots, yes, close to being agreed. That's what we hear. I don't know if that means Turkey's now got involved and everyone's being paid and everyone's happy, but it's a big fight. And you're right, these could be the two best in the division, and neither are champions. And this doesn't even have a belt. Which goes back to what you said earlier about the big fights don't have belts and don't need belts. This doesn't have a belt and doesn't need a belt. It's so big. It was good to see Xander Zayas. I think it's with Emiliano Vargas as well. They were doing the sparring as Bad Bunny was making his way out. On the Jake Paul thing, I think he's an idiot. I think he's an idiot and a hypocrite. What he said about sort of fake American citizens, and obviously having a dig at Bad Bunny, who's actually an American citizen, but obviously labeled him a fake one because he was doing his piece in Spanish. When Jake Paul lives in Puerto Rico, his company MVP started in Puerto Rico, and his #1 fighter that grew MVP promotions is Puerto Rican, to the point where she had to respond to Jake. Yes, MVP have come out now, and they've obviously said a few things, and we respect everyone, and which is obviously smart on their part, and no doubt that's Nikisa behind that, trying to put out fires. But I think Jake needs to chill out a little bit. I think he went way too far.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's a big Donald Trump supporter, and obviously this isn't a politics show, so I don't want to go too far down the line, but he is a big-named boxer. No, he's a big-named boxer, and it upset me that he done that because, again, his biggest star is Amanda Serrano, and I felt it was very disrespectful to her that you've done that. And she obviously appreciates what Jake Paul's done for her, and she continually says that, but you just don't need to do that. He's got to realize he's no longer a YouTuber. He's looked at a bit bigger than that now, Jake Paul. He's MVP Promotions. They've got an event on Sky Sports in a few weeks. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's bigger than just that to come out and say stupid things like that.
Well, and that's announced since our last show as well, that they are now with Sky and they've got a deal with Sky, which is brilliant. I agree. He's no longer the culprit, the villainous influencer who can come out and say those things. And at the end of the day, he's centre stage at the Olympics where his girlfriend's just winning gold medals as an ice skater. He is a really big news figure now. Without naming names, even some of your colleagues who work at DAZN, presenters at DAZN, it really divided America, the Super Bowl, with those believing it shouldn't have been in Spanish. I don't have an opinion either way. I'm a Spanish speaker. I have an Italian mother. I love the mix of things, but I don't get why Jake would do that. It didn't make sense. It was heinous for me, and it put Amanda Serrano in a very awkward position as well.
Very.
I know it was very poor of him. It wasn't thought through in my mind, in my view. But look how deep and nuanced boxing is in touching the whole world at the moment in lots of different ways.
I mean, boxing's in a fabulous place. It really is, and it's always been a global sport, right? Unlike many other sports, it's very global. Like it's participants all over the world, and I think that kind of showed over the weekend because all of a sudden I'm seeing people ask about Xander Zayas. I'm seeing people then obviously talk about Jake Paul, and I guess the roots sort of run deep through the world. So yeah, you're right. It has its place, but Jake Paul he irked me a little bit. I have to be honest with you.
I don't blame you. But here's a big one, and it's a big one for you as a romantic man. Okay, on Saturday, which I believe is Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is.
There you go. So you knew it was Valentine's Day.
I knew.
I don't think we've got an event this weekend.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
And there's no fight night show on Saturday night because of, I want to say, FA Cup. Something to do with football anyway, on talkSPORT. So, where are you and I going to be on Valentine's night? Or do we just leave it in the ether to end the show?
No, we don't. I go with my missus to a lovely restaurant that she's booked. Nice little table that I obviously, as the man, will be paying for. So that's my Valentine, sir. All done and dusted. I might even break, I've not had alcohol this year, so I might even have a glass of wine with her as well. So I am fully booked and taken. But get her in the cab, send her home, and I can meet you, big Gareth A. Davies. We can be in Soho and do it like the old times, boy. Do it like the old times.
I'm at a big art event in Cadogan Square, I think. It's a Valentine's art event. So if that does happen, and I hope it doesn't, because you'll get in trouble with her indoors,
yes,
I will end up seeing you on the other side. You'll be in Vegas the following week, and I will be in London doing BKB with Marco Martinha, and you'll be doing one of my favourite fights coming up that leads to so many things. Mario Barrios and Ryan Garcia. I think the roof will come off all week, and then the winner potentially fighting Conor Benn. So you'll get a lot of drama out there that week, I think.
Hope I do, and I think Conor Benn will be with me on broadcast as well. Okay. So it should be it's an invasion of the Brits in Vegas, so it should be fun. It really should be, as has this show been as well. I said at the top, it's a busy show. We crammed in a lot. We always do every week. We give you the information as raw and as honest as possible, and that's why you guys love listening to the podcast, and we appreciate you for listening to it, downloading it, watching on YouTube, everything you've done over the last, 4.5, 5 years. Thank you very, very much. All right. Big thanks as well to Mr. Gareth A. Davies. Get home safe from your travels. Gareth, can't wait to watch that documentary you're doing for BKB. Remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Just find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back next week.